Welcome to Scoop Road Order. This may have been the craziest day in Ohio State history. Our returning incumbent quarterback jumps into the transfer portal. Do we have a new QB1 already? Is Cam Ward going to be the 2024 starter? It's trending that way. There's been a lot of names in the hat, a lot of guys that we've been prospecting around. We've been wearing out our sources. My phone has been exploding literally all day with information on who's getting into the portal. I broke that Julian Fleming would get into the portal. About an hour later, he jumped in. There's been a lot of roster influx. These guys are working overtime to keep guys on the roster, to find NIL deals for guys on the roster. Could guys be coming back? We had one guy, Mayan Williams, declare, but a lot of the big dogs have not declared or made a decision yet, even though a lot of them are pretty much a foregone conclusion to be gone. So we're going to get into all that. We're going to take your questions. Get those super chats fired up tonight. If you guys have a question, get it in early. Hit that super chat. Those super chats are humongous for us. And, we just appreciate you guys so much. Again, we've had explosive growth on this channel. It's all thanks to you guys. We love kicking it with you guys every night. We went this morning. We had a huge crowd. I'll probably get a huge crowd tonight. But thank you guys for spreading the word, for liking the videos, for subscribing to the channel. The super chats are huge. Again, if you have a question, we literally stop our show and answer the super chats. It's been a great formula. It's been awesome. So we appreciate you guys. I'm going to bring in my good friend Nevada Buck. Nevada, I did a solo show this morning. It was really early on the West Coast, so I decided to jump on solo. Your thoughts? I mean, you broke last night that Kyle McCord would jump into the transfer portal. That was all the smoke. Ryan Day's press conference was bizarre last night. I had information for a few days that this could potentially be happening. You confirmed it late last night. We went with it. We broke it at, I think it was like 9:40 p.m. on Sunday night that Kyle McCord would indeed enter the transfer portal. And then sure as can be, Monday morning at like 6 a.m., he's in the transfer portal. What were your thoughts on breaking that story? Because it's one that's hard to believe when you're in the middle of all of it, but then you're just like, I guess this is modern college football.
Yeah, no, it's crazy 24 hours. And when I first got that, I wanted to double and triple check. And that's why when I was calling you and checking what you were hearing as well, because it was just a little hard to comprehend that something like that was going to go down. But it happened. It's happening. It's just part of a crazy, 2023 for Ohio State. And crazy doesn't mean bad. Crazy means, in crazy there's opportunity and there's chaos and there's, shuffling and there's chances to be better. And I'm just fascinated to see where college football is going. With this expanded playoff, with instantaneous free agency, and a little concerned. And I've expressed this on the message board that our level of expectation for some of these players now is so high. I mean, Kyle, I'm not a Kyle McCord apologist. I thought we could win with Kyle, so I'm sad to see him go. But I mean, when you look statistically, 65.8% of his passes, 3,100 yards, 24 TDs against 6 INTs, 13th in the nation in passing efficiency. And that says that means get out of town. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, wow. I mean, I'm just not sure if we're going to allow for a development situation anymore because, people want it all. And I understand, man, nobody wants to win more than I do. Nobody hates losing more than I do. But, I hate to use the example of Joe Burrow, but I'm going to do it anyway. Would our fans have allowed for like a Joe Burrow circa 2018 type of season? I don't know, and they wouldn't have. They would have run him out of town, man. So I think it's a very, very interesting time, and it's going to be the amount of pressure that's going to be on the kids that are currently on the roster, whether it be a Devin Brown or a Lincoln, Aaron Nolan coming in. And as you talked about in the opening, we've got some really interesting transfer portal connects. I know that Ryan Day is absolutely full throat into the transfer portal right now. Absolutely 100% all in. And they are throwing out all sorts of lines to see who's interested. And that's all up and down throughout the agent community. I've got that confirmed up and down. They're going after anybody and everybody that they think that can help them now that Kyle's out the door. So fascinating times, and it was great to be part of that story last night. Sorry for McCord, because I want to say this before we move on to anything else. I really, truly wish Kyle McCord the best. Um, I believe in my heart of hearts we could have won with him, but we're not going to win with him because he's gone. So I wish him well in his future endeavors, and hopefully the next QB1 can get us over the finish line on some of these OSU goals. That's an end of rant.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's fascinating. A guy who's started, lost one game. I mean, basically, like I said earlier, we're 6 points away from being the 7 points away. We beat Michigan. We're throwing at the end zone at the end of the game. Obviously, throw a pick, come up short, but we're that close to being the number one seed in the playoffs, and there being an entirely different set of circumstances, set of feelings. Again, it's amazing how in a year we'll be in the playoffs. We'll be dancing. We'll be excited. The whole mood, the circumstances will be different. Players won't be opting out. People will be excited to be a part of the 12-team playoff. But now it's like, we're getting ready to play a good Missouri team that's got their whole team, and we're going to have maybe Devin Brown at quarterback, maybe Lincoln Keenholz. I mean, Devin is looking at he wants an NIL deal to stay. That's the hard part about this is when you're in the market for an NIL quarterback, a lot of these guys have the same agents and they know what the going rate is for a quarterback. So, Devin's got to make a decision. I've heard like a baseline NIL deal to keep him through the bowl game. Not a huge number, but it's just modern college football. And again, I'm good with it. I mean, that's, the kids wanted this, and, the explosion in money in the sport. I think that these kids deserve to get paid. I love how you can manage the roster now, because frankly, a lot of our fans weren't satisfied with Kyle McCord. They thought they wanted an upgrade, and now we got a chance. Cam Ward's a kid that is on a lot of tongues right now. I was told last week that he turned us down, but last week Kyle McCord was on the roster. Now Kyle McCord is officially off the roster, and I think the math changes. Nevada, do you think as of this moment, if you gun to your head, this is not, I'm locking it in ink, because obviously there's Dante Moore, there's going to be more guys that hit the portal. Do you think Cam Ward is the most likely guy that we're going to go after?
We're already going after him. That's 100%.
Yeah.
Will we land him? I think that he is my most likely choice to end up as the quarterback at Ohio State next year out of the transfer portal. Got that from a couple of guys in the agent community that there's going to have warts. There's going to be, well, they fumble too much, or their completion percentage isn't high enough, or these guys are not all perfect finished products, and there's no perfect QB that's out there in the transfer portal. So anybody that you take, is a little bit of a risk, but Ryan Day knows what he's looking for. He knows looking for the quarterbacks, and I think Cam Ward's that guy. Kirk, are you on mute, Kirk?
Yeah, can't. It's kind of like Justin Fields. Like Justin Fields was a guy who was he was kind of out of sorts. Didn't play much as a freshman. Magically, he came back, and he was he came in year two, and he was dominant. I mean, he had a fantastic year in 2019. But when we got him, he didn't look that hot in the spring game, and like he had that one long completion. I think it was like to Ben Victor for like 80 yards, and that was like 99% of his yardage. But I don't know. I think it's going to be really interesting. We're starting to get a bunch of super chats. I'm going to start hitting these real quick. Apologize for the mute. I always try to do that when I drink my my water, so I don't sound weird on the thing. Buckeye Ryan 1, appreciate you for the deuce. Will these transfers have an effect on the culture? I don't think so. I think that this is like something everyone has to deal with. This is not an Ohio State issue. Georgia, Bama, Texas, they all have to deal with kids leaving because, when some of these kids get supplanted by younger players, by freshmen, if you're a second, third year guy and they start a freshman over you, like, you got to figure out where am I? Where am I on the depth chart? Like, Ohio State has a lot of guys that are ultra talented that can't get on the field or can't get a meaningful role, and they've done the job of being a team player. Like Reed Carrick is one of the nicest kids, one of the greatest kids you could ever meet. And he's been here 3 years and he hasn't played at all on anything. He might be on kickoff or special teams or something, but these guys all have ambitions. They want to go to the NFL. They want to take care of their families, and you don't have to be at Ohio State to do that. Bill Green always talks about Tevin Coleman and Jordan Howard, these guys that went to Indiana, and they made bank in the NFL as opposed to guys like Briante Dunn and Warren Ball and some of the guys that went to Ohio State, and they might have won national championship rings, but they didn't get the big checks like the guys that needed to. So, the moral of the story is you just have to go play somewhere and put out good film and produce. Nevada, do you think this will have an effect on the culture?
It's tough. I mean, I hate arguing that one with you because you played and the
Yeah.
rooms, and for as an observer from outside, do I feel like it's going to be different? It just feels different. It feels different where you're changing out so many. We used to talk about ideas about coming in with kids in your class and getting those types of relationships, and now it's like we're talking about 20, 30 kids, maybe more. It's flipping over in a year. So does that feel different to me? It does, but yeah, I know that's just the reality of football in 2023. So we have to embrace it. But boy, it sure feels a little different.
Well, I mean, like for instance, in my recruiting class, by the time I was a senior in '07, I was the only guy left. Everybody else had either flunked out, drug tested out, injury, or they were 4-year guys. So, and after my first year, half the class had failed out of school or drug tested out of school. So I kind of like dealt with the same kind of transfer portal-ish type thing where guys were just gone. So there's always attrition in college football. I think that the culture thing, again, I worry more about the scale of money because there's some guys that get absolutely jacked. They don't get anything. And then there's some guys that get millions, which is not like the NFL. The NFL, like the lowest paid guy is making like 700 grand if you're on practice squad. Practice squad's probably about 400. The lowest paid active roster guy is like 800. So, you're not starving when you're making $800,000 playing football. Now there's guys that make 50 million in the same locker room, but you're making 800 grand. You're in like the 1 percentile in the country. So I just worry about college where there's some kids that are totally destitute, scraping by on their plans. And again, don't cry for me, Argentina. I know they don't have to play football, whatever. They go get a job, but I worry more about that than I do people coming and going. Because again, I think that the benefit to the transfer is kids don't have to be stuck and be miserable. Because there were guys that I played with at Ohio State that were absolutely miserable at Ohio State because they couldn't get on the field and they didn't have a second best option. They couldn't transfer to a Division I school. They had to transfer down to a 1AA school. And nobody really wants to do that when you're a 1A player. Because in my day, if you transferred, you'd have to sit out here and go play scout team if you want to go to Miami or Florida State, and nobody wants to do that. I mean, when you've been playing for a long time. So I love the transfer portal. I think it's great for the kids, but I know a lot of these kids are going to get caught up in the wash and they're not going to find a home. So if I'm getting in that portal, I got to make sure I know where I'm going before I jump in. Deborah Sobel, appreciate you. You're on here every night. Thank you so much for the 5. Nice work breaking down the Kyle story. Fans are behaving as if we kicked a puppy. What kind of team are we sending to the Cotton Bowl? I think that the team's going to be hungry. Again, I think that, there's some ambition for these young guys to really show out and do well. Like guys like Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, if we see Devin Brown, Lincoln Keenholz, I mean, those guys are starving to play. I mean, they're like, no oxygen, like dying to play. And again, I love that. I mean, I'd rather those guys play than guys that really don't feel like playing because they want to save themselves and preserve their bodies for the NFL draft. I think that, those young guys, man, this is their Super Bowl. I mean, these guys want to go make NIL money. Go ball out in the Cotton Bowl. Go do the Jackson Smith and Jigba. Go do the Marvin Harrison 3 touchdowns. I love seeing the young guys play. It makes it exciting to me. They're going to play a real team. Like Missouri's a real team. They're good. They're not going to have the attrition we're going to have because we're going to have so many draft picks that are going to sit out of the game. But, I like it. I mean, dude, anytime you can strap it up and play for Ohio State, it's go time. It's wartime. We had adversity in 2004. I guess adversity, so to speak. Troy Smith was suspended for taking money, and we had to rally around Justin Zwick, and we went out there and balled out and whooped Oklahoma State. It was a game that was a pretty even matchup, and it was fun just to go out there and ball. Because I mean, when you get to strap up and go play at a big time game, the Cotton Bowl is way bigger than the Alamo Bowl. I mean, you're playing in the Jerry Dome. You're in Dallas. Like it'll be sweet. So I just hope that these young guys realize the opportunity they have because. If you want to be number 1 on the depth chart in the spring, Go ball out in the Cotton Bowl. Go ball out in these spring practices. Like these spring practices are like wars. I mean, you guys don't understand. Or excuse me, these bowl practices. Bowl practices are like wars. I mean, every day you scrimmage. It's really hard. It's really tough. It's grimy. It's just it's a tough atmosphere. But I knew those bowl practices, and I used to tell these young linemen, like, look, you guys want to be in the 2 deep. You guys want to start next year. Go ball out in this. Go take advantage of these guys that are sitting out because they're going to the draft. Like, go take advantage of it because those are real. This is like one of those real opportunities where it's like moving day in a golf tournament where you can really make a move and get after it. And I remember I was like sadistic in bowl practice because I wanted to start at right tackle so bad. I was balling, and it was nasty, and I loved it because you're not doing scout team work where it's half speed and chill and don't hurt the old guys. Like you're doing good on good work, and it's live and it's full go, and I love that stuff. Nevada, what kind of team do you think we're going to send to the Cotton Bowl?
Oh, like you said, it's going to be young and inexperienced, but it's going to be fun to watch. I mean, from a viewing perspective, it's going to be probably one of the most enjoyable games of the year to watch because we're just not going to have any idea what to see out of some of these kids. Because some of these kids we really haven't seen play. So you just know that, as you said, everybody who's out there wants to be there. And that's kind of fun sometimes to watch. And I remember the Rose Bowl against Utah, what a great game that was and how much fun that was. And I know people like to talk about these bowl games being unimportant, but they're not unimportant to the players that are playing in them. I can tell you that because it's a launching pad for 2024 and beyond. And for us, it's a glimpse into what we're going to see in the future. So I can't wait for the game personally.
I can't wait either. I think it's going to be awesome. And I enjoy every Ohio State game because guess what? The season goes by too fast. Marvin Harrison's already done. You'll never see Marvin Harrison in an Ohio State uniform again. And again, so I enjoy every single moment against every crappy team, good team, Michigan, win, loss. Like I just enjoy watching the games. Carlos Martinez, thanks for the deuce. Zach said Kyle's dad was a helicopter dad. Is that true? I don't know if he's a helicopter dad. He's more of a bulldozer dad. Like that's what Jim Tressel coined that when he was dealing with some of these fathers when he was a coach. Bulldozer dad's like he tries to push everything around. And again, I'm not going to get into Derek McCord, but I mean it's obvious that he got in Kyle's head and he wanted him out, and that's fine. I mean his dad played at Rutgers. He played college football. I've heard stories and quarterback dads are a different breed. I know a bunch of them. You guys know the ones that I know, and it just it's really interesting because I think that this is a strange precedent. I mean, because you're leaving Ohio State with Ryan Day, which is like a supersonic highway to the NFL to be in a first round pick at quarterback. And you're gonna have Ennis and Tate and all these great players, Jelani Thurman at tight end next year. And you're leaving. And I don't know where there's going to be a better setup, infrastructure, scheme. Because Ryan, for what he lacks in his game day management, sometimes he is a fantastic game planner. I mean, he gets guys schemed up and gets them open, and like that is his jam. Is getting things right. So, and he can coach the crap out of quarterback. If you stay with him for another year, it might drive you nuts and it might be tough, but he gonna get you right now. But what are your thoughts about it? Is Derek McCord a helicopter dad?
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't take it as a bad thing. I think he's like just about every other quarterback dad. I mean, you're talking about quarterback position where you're have the potential to make generational wealth in the NFL, and the only path to doing that is being on the field. That you can't do it holding the clipboard. There's no path to making money holding the clipboard or waving the towel or cheering. So you want to see your kid on the field, and whether it be at Ohio State or somewhere else, he wants to do it. I don't begrudge him that at all. Just like I don't begrudge Ohio State moving on. So probably best for both parties involved.
Yeah, and I know Quinn Ewers' dad really well, Dylan Raiola's dad really well. Like it's a different world when it's a quarterback, because quarterbacks only one guy gets to play, guys. Like it's not like me. I was an offensive tackle, and so if I wasn't good at tackle, they put me at guard or center or the other guard or the other tackle. So I mean, it's just a different world. A quarterback, there's one guy, and if he gets the keys to the Lambo, he gets to go and drive and potentially be like CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is going to literally he'll re-up for $600 million. Like he'll break every record known to man when his contract's up. He leads the NFL in passing yards, folks, and he's drafted the second worst team in the league. And what's his value worth? So Ryan knows what he's doing. Like I think Justin Fields will get a nice second contract. Like if Daniel Jones can get $40 million, then Justin will get $30. I think, if not more. But yeah, DW, thanks for the deuce. When you can't get past your second read, it's time to go. Yeah, I mean, he struggled a little bit, but again, one of your first reads, Marvin Harrison. I mean, he's going to be open a lot of the time, so you don't really need to read too many guys when you've got a guy like Marvin out there. But again, it didn't always work. I just wondered, if it was a confidence thing or if he was if he was terrified against Michigan because he missed some throws that were just like wide open, and I was like, you can't miss layups against Michigan. But what are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, just look, I think to me, he looked like a first year starter at quarterback. You forget how many years he's been in the program. What he looked like a guy. I mean, he's only got 11, 12, 13 starts under his belt, and is he as good as he's going to be when he has 25, 26 starts under his belt? Probably not. So would have loved to see that, results, kind of get the, it's almost like you invest the time, you invest the 12 starts in Cal this year. You almost want to see the fruit of it next year, but we're not going to get a chance to see that, but such is life.
No, I totally agree. That's kind of the sad part is like we've done all this and we're not going to get to see kind of the fruits of that second year progression. Pedro Lucio, thanks for the deuce. Ward would be a great fit, dual threat ability. I agree. We're gonna switch back into his highlights real quick. I just love watching him kind of create. Nevada, we talk a lot about running quarterbacks and creativity. What does that add to Ryan's offense? Because again, this is the kind of stuff I talk about. It's not always just scrambling, but just like when things break down, and obviously this Colorado State's not any good, but they're
quarterback means different things to different people. But running quarterback to us, I believe, and if I'm misspeaking, Mr. Barton, you can chime in. But it's just be able to move in the pocket, be able to move around by yourself some time with your offensive lineman, be opportunistic and take some free yards when they present itself, when the rush breaks down and you find yourself with a little green grass in front of you, and be able to be used as a part for 3 years, 3 years in a row. Now, Cam Ward, I think he had 8th in Miller rushing or Terrell Pryor rushing or whatever. We're not talking about guys that's going to run for 1,000 yards or do stuff, but just run enough to keep them honest, run enough to help out the offensive line, and run enough to help kind of produce in the red zone. That's, to me, what a running, rushing quarterback should look like in 2023.
Yeah, I totally agree. DW, thanks for the deuce. Did Ryan move on from Cal to keep Jeremiah Smith? I don't think that had anything to do with anything, just because, I mean, JJ's been he's been committed for so long that I don't think it's really he there's no way he would have thought that Kyle McCord was going to be gone. Jeff Frazier, thanks for the deuce, says him leaving affect Marvin coming back. I don't think there's any way in the universe that Marvin comes back. Nevada, you're probably with me on that. I just think that Marvin's a top 5 pick, and his dad played in the league for a long time. He's NFL. Like, I don't know what he could possibly gain from coming back for a 4th year. But your thoughts on that, Nevada? I think you're with me.
Yeah, that look, I like guys to stay as much as the next guy, but that would be one of the crazier things that's ever happened in the history of crazy. So I think we got to be ready for Marvin to move on. He made Heisman finals today, which is great. Glad to see that. But I think we're done seeing him in an Ohio State uniform.
Yeah, I think that I think that, and again, you can tell me what ones I'm wrong on. If I'm projecting who's leaving, Marvin, Emeka, Trey Henderson as the underclass guys. Donnie Jackson is on the fence. He's working to try to get an NIL deal to stay. JT Tuimoloau got a 2nd round grade. There's a good chance he jumps. Tyleik, Mike Hall, I think they jump. Jack Sawyer's on the fence right now. Some of it honestly is going to come down to getting an NIL deal in place to keep some of these guys, because some of these guys, they met with Rick Spielman. Rick Spielman, for those of you guys who don't know, is a Massillon guy. He's a GM for the Vikings for a long time. He's a fantastic GM. He's out of the league right now, but he runs a scouting service. And Ryan Day and Ohio State, to their credit, they hire him to come meet with the players and go over their grades, especially with the underclassmen. So, if you're JT Tuimoloau, you and your parents go up there and meet, and you can ask questions. And Rick's got a great network of general managers that he talks to. And he says, okay, JT, you're projected 2nd to 3rd round grade. They want to see better hand usage. They want to see, more explosion. They want to see you shed. And some of the stuff is like, it's hard to do in certain schemes. If they say, hey, we want to see more variety in pass rush, but if you're told you have to cage rush basically means you're caging the quarterback in. So you're basically bull rushing the edge and pinching it in to keep the quarterback in the pocket. It's hard to show pass rush variety. Like when you watch Florida State, their ends get turned loose, but they also lose contain. So they don't really, there's kind of a give and take. If you give a guy the ability to spin inside and lose contain, then all of a sudden, if a quarterback's quick, he can get out of the pocket and run. I think that there's more of an emphasis on cage rushing now than there was in the past due to how many mobile quarterbacks, how many fast quarterbacks we play. Because, in the past, if you're playing a bunch of big, slow statues at quarterback, you could take an inside move and the guy's probably not going to be able to get away from you. So, I think it'll be fascinating. Again, there's swirls, that Trey Henderson may come back. That would be maybe the most shocking thing I've ever seen in Ohio State because, I think Trey's a fantastic player. I think he's a first round pick, maybe second round pick. But if he runs well, he could easily be a late first round pick. I don't think he's that much different than Bijan Robinson. But I also think that he's a running back, and running backs need to go get paid. I mean, like today. I mean, you see, you guys that play fantasy football, like Dalvin Cook's like 28 years old, and the wheels have fallen off Dalvin Cook after he was a Pro Bowler 2 years ago. So, I think these guys need to go get paid. What are your thoughts, Nevada? I mean, were there any guys that you had any different opinion on in terms of returning or not returning in terms of the NFL draft?
No, I think the story of this bowl season, to me at least, because everyone seems to kind of have a theme, I think we may be surprised by how many guys play in the bowl game. That's what I think may surprise us. I think more kids may play in the bowl game than we expected, but I think we'll lose the vast majority of the kids that we expect to lose. We'll keep a handful of them, via OSU NIL, stepping up and keeping some kids around. But I think more kids may play in the bowl game than we've seen in the past, and I think that may surprise some folks.
That'd be interesting. Again, it's kind of like the trend now that guys don't play. I don't know, man. I always wanted to just strap up and go. And it's like, if you get hurt, you get hurt. It's God's will. You know what I mean? It's like, like poor Jake Butt. Like Jake Butt's still on fine. I know that he didn't have the NFL career when he got hurt in that Orange Bowl against Florida State. Tore his knee when he was the Mackey Award winner. But he survived. And he's got a great attitude about it. And that's kind of like the doomsday scenario: is that you have a terrible knee and then you shred it. Like he tore it like 3 more times after that when he's in the league. But I just think go strap up and play with your dudes and try to send the seniors out the right way is the way to go. Buckeye won it. Thanks for the deuce. Do you think Bama calls the cheaters up north soft after they win? Well, I mean, I think that, Michigan's in for a rude awakening when they play the big bad Bama. I love Alabama. I love everything about Alabama. I love how they conduct their business. I love Nick Saban. Those guys don't talk. They don't talk trash. I mean, those guys it's a different breed when you play those guys. And, again, if the Bucks are out of it, I want Bama to win. Like I want them to beat Michigan by 80 points, make them miserable, make them cry. The 4 seed beat the 1 seed. But that's just my opinion. Like I like how Bama does their business. Like again, they're a classy program, and Nick Saban doesn't put up with any mess. And they've got the best NIL in the history of mankind with the Elephant Club. So there's a lot to envy about what they do. Barb Barrett, appreciate you being Scoop Ultra member. Thank you for the 5. I don't believe Kyle ever actually saw the field. Like shooting pool, you either see the pocket or you don't. What is your take on this? Nevada, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, no, I think, that's definitely was his big limiting factor, his ability to kind of move off progressions. And, we'd see him do it every now and then, and it was notable when it happened, but, he was generally one read and go. Frankly, to me, I always think when you have players, it's like you can have the player that they are, or you can have the player that you wish them to be. And I've always thought wishing was a terrible strategy. And so when you've got a kid like Kyle, who's clearly got a good arm, he clearly can step in his throws and and make the throws. He did it all year, and he's generally a one read guy. I would have gone fast. I think you embrace his skills and you limit the chances for the defense to do exotic things. When you go fast, defense has got to play it pretty straight. They got to play it pretty basic. You can make your read and just let her rip, tater chip. And I think, I wish and I think that Ryan should have done that, and I wish that he had done that. And I think that Kyle's numbers, which were pretty good, I think they could have been even better had we not do, because I don't think that he was a particularly analytic guy where he study the field, read the thing, go off his first receiver to his second, go off his second to his third, go off his third to the outlet. That's just not how he played quarterback, and that's why I thought whenever we went fast, we did really well. I love to see the advanced stats about when Ohio State went fast, because it felt like, can you ever remember us ever being stopped going fast? I can't.
No,
I
no,
can't think of a single time. But we just stopped ourselves. We just stopped going fast. So that's again another thing for improvement that I think that Ryan could have done. Because I think the common denominator in any of our quarterback issues or offensive issues is Ryan Day. So
yeah.
Ryan can fire everybody else on the staff. He can fire Corey Dennis. He can fire Parker Fleming. He can change quarterbacks. But man, at some point, he's got to look at himself and go, "What can I do better to help the offense out?" And we talked about running the quarterback. We talked about using tempo. We talked about playing to your team strength. I mean, there's a lot of things that he could do to make it better that involves him and not everybody else. But that's just my opinion.
No, I totally agree. I think that just watching some Cam Ward film again. This is a guy that I think we've got a really good shot at getting as our quarterback next year. I think Ryan. When we go fast, it's like right here. These guys go fast. You can see Wisconsin. Like this is the stuff I love to do in the goal line. First and goal, you're on the 1 yard line. You could run an easy read option here. These guys aren't lined up. And he sees 2 over 1 right here. This is like stealing. Obviously, you catch it. Guys aren't lined up. And that's an easy walk and touchdown. But that's an advantage to going fast. I mean, you could do it like all the time. You see it sometimes when you've got situations down on the goal line. You'll watch good teams and they go fast and they get right in the end zone because teams can't substitute. They can't get their big guys on the field and goal line personnel, and they walk right in the end zone. They run a read option, and it's like stealing. Like with Kyle, you couldn't really do that. Sean Turner, thank you for the 5, my man. Appreciate you, brother. You're on here all the time. Kirk Spill the Beans, who is lined up and will be coming through the portal to OSU. Who will be the QB? Keep it real. Well, again, like I was told last week that we weren't getting Cam Ward, and then Kyle McCord jumps to the portal, and now it looks like he's the odds-on favorite over Dante Moore, and the kid from Duke, who I apologize to you guys that watched earlier. I was calling him Graham Mertz. Obviously, it's not Graham Mertz, the guy that went to Florida from Wisconsin. I fuzzed on his name, so I apologize. But I think he's going to Notre Dame. I know that Ohio State's trying to meet with him, but I think he's already locked into Notre Dame. But I'd be excited to see this kid, see Cam Ward. I got to stop thinking that he's the Carolina Hurricanes goalie and think that he's the Washington State quarterback. But I like guys that are fast and can run, and he's got great touch on his intermediate passing game, which is something I love. And again, I think Ryan. Again, I said it last year, and people thought I was crazy, but I know that he went after Drake May last year from Carolina, who's if we had Drake May, we'd be the number 1 seed in the playoffs right now because Drake May is 10 times better than Kyle McCord. And when Ryan Day went after Drake May, I raised my eyebrows because like, oh my God, he's going after a guy that he's a Carolina guy, and that's a guy that he wanted because I don't think he was sold on Kyle, and he had Kyle through the year, and he wouldn't commit to him for next year, and we're searching out these quarterbacks in the portal, and Derek McCord and Kyle decided to make a business decision, and writing was on the wall. So, again, I read tea leaves. Nevada and I get info from very high level people in the college football industry, in the NFL. And when I heard that, man, I was like, oh boy, like we are not in Kansas anymore because Ryan does not believe in Kyle McCord. Nevada. Honestly, the hardest part, Sean, is it's hard to project who Ohio State is going to get in the portal. Outside of maybe like Carter Smith, who's kind of like a shoo-in just because he's from Old Tangy-Liberty, because I don't know everyone that's in the portal yet. I mean, there's still guys pouring. There's going to be probably 700 guys in the portal, so it's just one of those crazy times. Nevada, I know you're not going to go on anybody in the portal outside maybe Carter Smith, but thoughts? I mean, linemen for sure.
Well, my first thought is that his name is Riley Leonard from Duke. Now, why Riley Graham Mertz Leonard would go to Notre Dame when Notre Dame just lost their entire wide receiver room is kind of crazy. I mean, I like he must really love Notre Dame. Like he must have grown up with like the Notre Dame pajamas and like the shillelagh and like the dressed as the leprechaun, for Halloween or something like that. But like as a quarterback, I know Ohio State wants to meet with him. I love Riley Leonard. I mean, I love those greasy. I've said it before, but those Cam Rising Utah type of greasy quarterbacks that just go out there and move the chains and make the throws and run it with their legs and dive and do all sorts of stuff like that. Um, Now we have one of those. We have a couple of those guys in our room right now with Lincoln and Devin. So I'm interested in seeing those guys in the bowl game against Mizzou. And the big thing, and we haven't talked about this scenario at all, is what if Devin Brown or Lincoln or whomever goes into the bowl game and just balls out, throws 4 touchdown passes, throws for 350 yards? Then where are you at? So I mean, I do not envy Ryan Day these decisions, and no college quarterback, or excuse me, college coach at Ohio State has ever had to face these types of decisions, and this type of mayhem and chaos. And frankly, I don't know why a college coach would subject himself to this. I think I've always thought that the NFL was a better job for most people than college, mainly because you didn't have to do recruiting and stuff like that. But now when you add all this other stuff on top of it, man, the NFL is a 10 times better job than a college head coaching job. So these guys that do it are a special breed, and I don't know how they handle it all, because it's mind numbing looking at it from afar. I can't imagine being in the midst of it.
No, I totally agree. I mean, because the problem is if Devin Brown 6th round plays this ball game and he balls out, like price goes up. If he goes 5 touchdowns, 450 yards, and shreds Missouri, then he's got more leverage in the portal. Because again, there's going to be some guys that are going to miss out on the first round, or they're going to have guys declare, or because again, there's going to be another open period after spring practice. So it's a weird time, but I'm also not scared of it, because again, if you want to go be a rich NFL quarterback, come to Ohio State, work with Ryan Day. Ryan Day will grind you into mincemeat, but he's going to make you a really good quarterback. And he's going to get you pro ready like CJ Stroud is. Pedro, appreciate you again. Thanks for the deuce. Kyle wasn't good grade at anything. No it factor. I agree. I mean, he's a young guy. I mean, he's first year starter. He won 11-1. He's like 24-6, 24 TDs or 26 TDs and like 6 picks, I think. So, but I mean, I think that Ryan, again, here's the thing. I think we can do better, but more importantly, Ryan Day thinks we can do better. And Ryan Day knows more about quarterbacks than everybody on this chat combined. So, he wasn't convinced that Kyle was the guy, or else he would have committed to him. It's hard when a guy's got eligibility left and you have a whole year starting, and he literally lost one game to the number 1 team in the country by 6 points on the road. And that's enough to pull the ripcord. So something's weird there. Again, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the dad, if it's Kyle. But hey, here we are. And again, we've got an opportunity to get a really good player out of Washington State. I think that we're going to exhaust all options in the quarterback realm. Nevada, do you agree? I mean, did you think Kyle had any outstanding traits? Because I just don't. I didn't see it. Again, I didn't think he was much of a leader. He looked terrified against Michigan. But your thoughts?
Well, I want to first of all set the record straight, at least as I understand it, about how this whole thing went down. And this may be a distinction without a difference, but I want to make the distinction anyway. My understanding of the conversation was that Kyle and his dad were asking Ryan for a commitment to be QB1 next year, and that Ryan was not in a position to make that commitment to him, which is slightly different than Ryan thinks he could do better elsewhere. Because I'm not sure if Ryan knows that he can do better. I think Ryan was hesitant to make a commitment like that when he didn't know what was out there, when he didn't know how that would impact the other guys in the room, and when it was part of his base philosophy, he felt like that every position should be an open competition, especially when he didn't feel like Kyle had done enough to kind of secure the job. So, it's a little different than if he had a guy in his pocket and he's like, hey, Kyle, go hit the road because I know I've got quarterback XYZ ready to rock in there. I'm not sure he's in that situation. So he's rolling the dice a little bit here along with it. But, hey, that's just the way that college football is. In terms of Kyle's outstanding traits, I thought he was better in the second half of games. I thought he was generally pretty clutch down the stretch. He started slow, and unfortunately, his slow starts kind of put us in some holes, and his lack of running, whether that be Ryan Day induced or whatever, really limited him. Because he was a one read quarterback without a golden arm who didn't have legs, and that's I think that's tough to win in 2023. Even though he won 11 of 12 games, and as you said, came within a maybe a second or two of being an Ohio State legend. But life is cruel sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think he doesn't. Ryan probably has an inkling of who he can get in the portal, but I don't think this is like a Justin Fields comes in and he wipes out Tate Martell and the rest of the room because he had Justin Fields kind of in his back pocket in 19. But here we go. Larry Daniels, Scoop Ultra member, appreciate you, my man. With the 25,000. When's the reveal? Thanks, guys. Nevada, when is the reveal?
I think we're going to do the Nevada Buck reveal tomorrow night. I think the Nevada Buck reveal tomorrow night. We hadn't anticipated hitting 25,000 viewers quite this fast, and boy, this thing blew the lid right off our show. So, thanks to all of our great subscribers and ultra members and supporters out there. But we blew by 25,000. So I'm thinking tomorrow night. I was going to save this for my ending little monologue, but I think tomorrow night might be the big Nevada Buck reveal show. So lots of excitement going on around here.
Oh my God, it's going to be hilarious. Zach Davidson, thank you for the 20. Appreciate you, brother. Love the show, boys. Thank you so much again. We love kicking it with you guys. You guys are awesome. All you guys that get to tune in every night. Again, it's fun. We love taking the questions. We love hearing the banter. Again, this is always the highlight of our day. Love the show, boys. OSU splitting from McCord was a good move for both. McCord's body language against the team up north was enough for anyone to see that. We need a QB who can ignite the locker room. They set the tone. Kyle never did. I agree with that. I mean, I just thought he was flaccid on game days, and he looked against Notre Dame he looked terrified. And against Michigan he looked terrified. And I played with Troy, and Troy was a fiery dude, and JT is one of my favorite players of all time. And every time I see JT Barrett, I tell him, I was like, look, I've always had your back. You're my boy. And he's like, I know, dog. I appreciate you. And I love JT. I hope he's our. He coaches at Ohio State soon. He's doing great with the Lions, and he's got a bright future as a coach. But Nevada, do you agree? Do you think that the QB needs to ignite the locker room and set the tone?
Yeah, I agree on the body language too. I think the body language, that's always a tough one though, reading that stuff, but it looked a little wonky to me. And look, you guys know I'm the biggest JT Barrett fan in the world, but go watch some of the JT Barrett stuff where he's doing the locker room stuff. I mean, you will be absolutely ready to run through the wall. And you see why I love that kid so much. And you also see why he went 4-0 against Michigan. For him, this was not just another game. Losing was not an option. And don't underestimate stuff like that out of your alphas. Your alphas need to be the leader. I mean, Kirk Barton was an All-American because he had freaking Troy Smith there as his quarterback out there that could put everybody on the thing and just carry that team on its back and make Kirk famous there at right tackle. And a great quarterback can just elevate everybody else up there in the room. And that. Kirk, you played, like I said, you played with the ultimate dog of all dogs. And, great quarterback play can inspire everybody else to be great. And I think, Kyle maybe wasn't as fiery as he might have been.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because I played with Troy in 2006 and I was a junior. So I was an All-American in 2007 with Todd, and Todd Beckman was a first-year starter, more of a quiet dude just because he hadn't played. It's hard when you've been on the program. He was in the program as long as me. He was a 6-year guy because he ended up, he gray-shirted and then he came in and he was there forever. And, he was my age as a 5th-year guy, but he never played. So it's hard to lead when you hadn't played. So I had to kind of be like the Troy my senior year because I had more starts than everybody on the team on offense combined. I had 30 something starts coming into my senior year. And so I had to be the guy. And again, I never had to be the guy with Troy because Troy is, mouthy and loud and, he'd always talk trash and it was great. So, I could just go about my business. But that next year, when you had a bunch of young guys, I kind of had to be the guy that set the tone. And, and I didn't make many friends when I set the tone because the tone was pretty sadistic just because again, when you're undermanned, and again, Ohio State's never undermanned, but we were picked to be third in the Big Ten. We weren't picked to be first. We were a top 10-ish type team, not a number 1 team. So, we had to play with an edge. Like that was the only way we had a chance, and we were able to. Douglas Lane, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, brother. I'm puzzled with the largest university year in, year out, rich CEOs and big companies, why we don't have the biggest and best NIL club in college football. I just don't think we have an animal at the top of any of these NIL collectives. I think Brian Schottenstein's by far the best fundraiser, but the other ones that Ohio State seems to love doesn't really have it. But again, that's just my opinion. Again, I could be dead wrong. Maybe they're just crushing it and nobody knows about it. But, there's a 3-week stretch where 1870 Society didn't put out a single tweet, and we won 3 straight games. And I'm like, how are these guys not hammering people to try to get donations? But what are your thoughts on that, Nevada?
I mean, look, you've got the Oregon NIL thing that's headed up by Phil Knight. You know what I'm saying? And people will give money if they feel like there's other people that are giving money and that they're all kind of in the same boat, that you're all trying to do that. And that's basically means rich people will donate to other rich people in terms of doing it. That's just the way that the world works. And you talked about the Elephant Club down in Alabama. I'm not sure who the current head of that is, but for a long time that wasn't that was that Bear Bryant's son? Bear Jr. Yeah. So like when that guy was growled at you and asked you for money, like you just pulled out the checkbook and did it. Oh. You can't have the junior varsity out there running the NIL. You can't have little kids running around asking for things and saying, hey, you'll get to play golf with Parker Fleming and Jagger LaRue and please give me $17,000. You know what I'm saying? Like it just doesn't work. That's not how this stuff works, So I think our NIL, we don't have a good culture of NIL because we weren't really in the habit of paying players. The SEC and those schools were doing it illegally for years. And now it's a question of how they can write a check instead of doing it in cash bags. For us, we just never had a good culture of doing that, and we've got the wrong people doing it. I'm just telling you, you have to be headed up by somebody who is committed, who's got put their money where their mouth is. We've got a lot of rich guys in Columbus, no question, but none of them are heading up the NIL program. If you go look at who's heading up the NIL program, it's not rich guys, and no. That's the biggest problem. And rich people do not want to give money to poor people; they just don't. And that's just the way the world works.
Oh yeah, and part of it is like rich people don't want to give money to these collectives, and they get to go run around and be the kingmaker with their money. Like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, exactly. If I want to give money to Carnell Tate, I'm just gonna give money to Carnell Tate. I'll figure out, hey, you can be endorsed by Buckeye Scoop or whatever. But I'm not gonna give it to a collective so that they can say, oh, Carnell, here's my check for let's go golfing and hang out. That's the problem. Is if you're a rich dude and you want to help these kids out, you don't need a collective. You can just go do it. Now it's not gonna be as organized and. Mark Piantoni can't put in the little ATM card to withdraw money to try to go get a defensive tackle. But, that's kind of the problem is I don't see the use why you need a collective at all. Barb Barrett, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you. Did Kyle win or did the supporting cast save his butt? I think, the thing that was most disappointing about Kyle is that, he broke our 12-year streak of first team all Big Ten quarterbacks, and he had by far the best supporting cast with Marvin, Emeka, Trey. And I know Emeka and Trey missed a lot of time, but Cade, a good offensive line. And he still can get higher than third team all Big Ten, which is crazy to me because, you look at who you're throwing it to. So I think the supporting cast did save his butt. It'll be interesting to see where he goes to because he's not going to have better players than he did at Ohio State, no matter where he goes to. He's not going to have better players than Innis and Tate and whoever our tailback is. We have Jelani Thurman playing tight end next year. Those are all monsters. So it'll be interesting to see, how high up the food chain he goes, where he lands at, and how he does, honestly. Because, Ohio State is this past year was outside of Notre Dame, and, we had 3 games that were toughies, and the rest were pretty soft. And it kind of is what it is. Your thoughts to that? Did the supporting cast save Kyle's butt?
Well, yeah. I mean, you play with a group like that, you're going to put up pretty gaudy stats. I think Kyle ends up at Rutgers. If I had to bet, that's where I would think that they seem to have a spot for a quarterback. It seemed like he'd be a good fit in there, geographically. And I'm sure Ryan wants to do him right, and like Shiano, and these things generally work out for all involved. I sincerely hope he goes and does well. But it will be interesting to see how he does when he doesn't have the supporting cast because, there's a different world out there in it, and 99% of the schools are not Ohio State, and he's going to figure that out.
Yeah, I totally agree. Caden Hutchins, thanks to the 5. Appreciate you. My favorite part is when Twitter accounts say you don't know what you guys are talking about. You hit on a college transfer the day before. I mean, they all read everything we write. You guys are probably starting to figure out that like all the other websites, all the other beat people, all the other people that don't like us, they read everything we write and they listen to everything we do as a podcast. That's why go look at our ratings, go look at everybody else's ratings. I mean, they can't wait to hear what we know because we have better sources than they do. And we run circles around them. We break more stories. So, again, like the McCord thing we went with last night, we weren't at the press conference listening to Ryan Day, babble on about whatever. Because honestly, they're worthless. Like, I mean, Ryan hates giving those things. If he didn't have to, he'd never give another one for the rest of the time. And he tries to give out as little information as possible. But our sources are really good. And again, the McCord thing is something that I was hearing whispers of it like last Thursday. And then, I really wanted to verify that because that's a biggie to go on, that the starting quarterback at Ohio State is going to dip out. But by Sunday night, it was a full-blown bonfire, and Nevada confirmed it because he had a bigger source. And I was like, let's go. But your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, look, I mean, you guys know. That's why you're listening. You guys are listening because you know that we know what we're talking about. Like on the Michigan stuff, we've had this stuff. If we don't know, we'll tell you we don't know. We're not going to make it. We don't manufacture the news here. We're just going to report the news to you, and we're going to tell you what's going on. And I think we're pretty good at it. If we weren't, we'd have 4 people on, and 3 of them would be named Barton, and the other would be one of my kids. That'd be the end of the thing. But you guys know. You guys are a smart audience, man. You know when you're getting the goods.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Rowe, thanks for the deuce. Appreciate you, my man. I think you got a question down here a little bit later. Uptown Daniel, thanks for the deuce. I think that's Brown for sure and Keenholz. Yeah, again, word on the street is, Devin has been offered a small contingent NIL deal to play in the bowl game. And if it does great, then it can rise to something bigger. So welcome to the wacky world of college football. But, I think if I'm Devin Brown, I'm approaching this thing like, man, I want to go throw for 500 and 6 touchdowns and shred, because you're going to have Carnell and Brandon Innes out there, man. Those boys have been dying to play. If Jaden Ballard's still here, he might get to play 1 snap because, the coaching staff just hates him and they never play him. So, but Innes and Tate, I think, will be out there balling. You drink it. This is a great question. Mr. Barton, do you prefer the ACL or the MCL versus Michigan? I always like to go for the ACL because if you get that, they're out for the game. So when I used to cut guys, it's funny because Urban used to say that all the time. When we would cut the edge with a running back, we used to have our running backs cut live in practice. They'd cut our scout team guys. And I used to feel so bad for the scout team guys because imagine I didn't have Ezekiel, but, our tailbacks, we had Carlos Hyde, whose head was a size 8, go in and cut a guy right in the knee. And he'd say, hey, you're going to ACL. And I would tell the guys, I'm like, hey, guy, dude, you're about to get cut. So brace yourself because it's about to hurt and make sure you got your knee pads in because we would live cut on the edge of some pass rush stuff. So, again, I used to like to cut in practice. I used to like to cut early in games because if you bang a guy's knee early in the game, he is not going to want to rush the passer against you, especially when it's a 3-step and you can just unload on his knee. And especially, I watch these kids now that don't wear knee guards. They don't wear knee pads at all. I'm like, oh my God, I would have been going after every one of those kneecaps because a helmet to the top of your knee is extremely painful. Chris Slusher, thanks for the deuce. I think you were wrong. It will be Aiden Charles. So Aiden Charles is a really, really weird name. I was talking to him about someone today. 247 has him as the number 1 quarterback in the portal, and he didn't even start at Oregon State last year. He was DJ Uiagalele's backup. So I don't know how you put a freshman that couldn't beat out DJ Uiagalele as the number 1 guy in the portal over Cam Ward, who started at Washington State. Dante.
Wait. So isn't DJ Ugalangalangli in the transfer portal as well?
Yeah, they're both in the portal. Yeah,
So the guy that's above him is above them in their portal rankings. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
It was bizarre. It made literally 0 sense to me. 0 sense. So, but yeah, just I don't know. Again, I haven't heard anything about Aiden Charles. Nothing would surprise me at this point, but. I think that getting a kid who didn't play at Oregon State last year isn't exactly going to blow the skirts up for the Buckeye fan base. But I could be wrong. Chris Brown, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, my man. Once the dust settles after recruiting and the portal, will the Bucks be better or worse in 2024? I think there's going to be a little bit of a rebuild just because if you lose some of the projected, if you lose 3 D linemen, that's tough. If you lose, if you end up losing JT, Tyleek, Mike Hall, and Jack's kind of on the fence, those guys all got second, third roundish type grades. So they're not like surefire guys, but do they want to stick around? Is Jim Knowles is Jim Knowles going to be here? Is Larry Johnson going to be here? There's a lot of stuff that has to shake out over the next month. I think if you put a gun to my head, I think they're both going to be back in terms of Jim Knowles and Larry Johnson. But, I think it just depends on who do we get in the portal. Does Cody Simon come back? That's the guy that, if Cody Simon comes back, I'll feel a lot better about our linebacker situation just because I think he's really good. I think he'd have a full year to start. Tommy's going to go pro. Tommy announced he's playing in the Senior Bowl. I think our DBs will be fine just because I think we have really good young corners. We got some good freshmen coming in too to back those guys up. Skill wise, I can't imagine that we're going to be better than having Trey Henderson, Marvin, and Emeka. But Brandon is Carnell Tate, and then you throw in JJ Smith, who is maybe the best wide receiver recruit prospect of all time. We'll have some young, hungry guys, and it'll be exciting. And if we get better play out of our quarterback, then we could easily be better. I think the O-line will be better. I think the O-line is going to have Carson back. I think Josh Fryar is going to move to guard. I think Jimmy Simmons is going to play left tackle. I think we're going to get a portal kid, likely Carter Smith at right tackle, then maybe another guard. So again, it's so early to project right now, just because with the portal shaking out and who do we get in the portal, a lot can change. So again, we got some kids late in after spring ball last year to come join the Buckeyes. So it's going to be real interesting to see how some of these guys shake out. Nevada, will the Bucks be better or worse in 2024?
I think we'll be worse on defense, but we'll be better on offense. So I think it'll be about a wash. And we can't get any worse on special teams, so we can only go up from there.
There you go. So we'll be better overall because it's 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Matt Crawford, appreciate you, my man. Can you all train up some guys so they can have a trusted, accurate news source? They need it so badly. They were terrible during that thing. And we've got really good sources at really high levels of networks and agents and Big Ten office. And it's like they didn't have anything. And I mean, they were whiffing left and right. And I don't know. It was strange. Nevada, can we coach up the Michigan beat? The Michigan beat was a joke during that whole thing.
Yeah, you can't coach up stupid. I mean, those guys, they're stupid. They would just make stuff up too. I mean, that's the thing about it is if you're going to miss and you miss because somebody told you something and it turned out to be wrong or what, I mean, that's okay. I put that in the category of acceptable misses. But when you're just making stuff up and you just read their stuff and you knew immediately it was fiction, and I don't know if you can save people like that because they're just like storytellers that are just kind of, it's like story time with the on the Michigan beat. I don't know why anybody would pay for that stuff because you're not getting it's not even like you're getting like the Michigan point of view. You're just getting whatever this guy just decided to write up on that day point of view. But that's but I digress.
Yeah, I agree. I just had to check to see if anyone else entered the portal. We'll go and do a little portal rundown. Douglas Lane, Kyle McCord is better than Joe. Yeah, I mean, Joe Bowserman's the worst quarterback I ever saw at Ohio State. And I was coaching in 2011. And the weirdest thing about Joe Bowserman, I'll say this, is that he was very overaged. He was literally 1 year younger than me, but he was one of those guys that went and played minor league baseball. He was like a second round pick. So, when he was playing at Ohio State, he was like 25, 26 years old. And I was like, 27 years old as a grad assistant, after I played, 3 years in the NFL. And he beat Braxton Miller out in training camp. Like I was there. Like it wasn't like we were, we wanted, I mean, if Braxton was the better dude, we were ready to play him because Braxton was clearly more talented, but he didn't know the playbook. He wasn't a super hard worker. Joe was kind of trying to make it and be that veteran dude and wear the baseball cap and he acted like a veteran. Cause again, he was like 26 years old. Like, dude, I'm like, you're like a year younger than me. And I've been out of college for 4 years now. And he was still the quarterback, but he just got dramatically worse. I think he got gun shy. He had no confidence in his accuracy. I mean, that was that year was awful. But Kyle, was 26-6. I mean, his TD interception, it was either 24-6 or 26-6 or 26-4, whatever it was. Like his TD interception ratio was fine. So again, I know McCord's getting bagged on, but I don't think he was terrible. But in some of the bigger games, he didn't play to the level that we needed him to get at. Thoughts about it?
Yeah, like I said, I know this is a minority view and this is not going to be a popular view, but I didn't think McCord was that bad. I didn't think McCord was that bad. I really hope that we can get better quarterback play. I think we can. I think we can do two things to get quarterback play. One is just Ryan Day needs to be better, and then
Yeah.
two, just have a quarterback that's willing and able to run. Just do those two things, and our quarterback play will increase by 25%. Even if the throwing's exactly the same, we'll be better. We'll score more points. We'll be more predictable because you see it every week. Go watch any college football game every week, and you see obscure school Coastal Carolina versus Wyoming, and you see the offenses just running the ball up and down the field, and you're seeing stuff, and you're like, wow, I've never even seen that before. Wow, they just did a double reverse pass to the tight end and wheel route to the quarter. I mean, offense doesn't have to be like that we're doing it. It just doesn't. And but that's a Ryan Day thing, and he's got to figure that out. I really think that the 12-team playoff, I've said this before, but I think that'll loosen Ryan up. I think he'll realize that he can afford to lose a game. He can afford to lose a couple of games. He'll still be in the playoff. And I think as a result, we may see a looser Ryan Day, and that would be a net positive.
Yeah, I totally agree. Jeremy Keith, thanks for the five. Appreciate you, my man. Do you think the QBs in the portal will wait and see how Devin Brown and Lincoln Keenel's playing the bowl game before committing to Ohio State? I don't think so. I mean, because I think that, if the thing about modern college football that has really morphed into kind of what the NFL is if they give you a big NIL deal, you're playing. Like that's just kind of how it is now. It's kind of like if an NFL owner pays a cornerback and you're the DB coach, like you're playing that guy and you're going to figure out a way to make him good. You're not going to say, well, this second round pick is better than this guy that we were paying $20 million a year to play corner to. Like in college football, if the alignment is there with Ryan Day and whatever collective is writing the check and Pantone and Ryan Day again, really it's Ryan Day like 10 times, and they go in on Cam Ward, like that's going to be the guy. It ain't going to be Devin Brown. It ain't going to be Lincoln Keenholz. Like, you can say there's a competition, but if a guy's making the kind of money, the kind of jack that they're proposing, I think that the competition thing kind of goes out the window. And I think the kids know that. Again, it's no different than pro sports. If you pay a guy a bunch of money, he's probably going to be your starter. If he's your starting quarterback and if you're the starting quarterback and then some guy comes in, he breaks every record and they sign him, like you're probably going to be the backup. But what are your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, I think all these quarterbacks believe that they're the guy anyway. They don't believe that any backup can beat them out. And you've got to have that kind of a mindset to be a big-time college quarterback. That's why they put themselves in the portal to do that. So I think they'll be comfortable that they can operate the offense at a higher level than any of the backups at Ohio State do. And whether they're right or not, we'll see. But I'm sure they believe that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree. Like, no matter what someone gets paid or whatever, you got to get ready to beat them out. I mean, and if it's clear, there will be a team mutiny if they play the wrong guy. I mean, I've seen that before too. If they play the wrong quarterback, like sometimes it can be very apparent. Devon Johnson, appreciate you, my man. You're on here earlier. Thank you. How long will it take Ryan to get a QB in the portal? How long does the portal last? The portal lasts, I think it goes through the bowl games. I think you can enter after the bowl game if you want to. I know that Ryan Day and the coaching staff they were trying to convince some of these kids that were jumping into the portal to practice through bowl prep just so they'd have some depth. Because again, it gets sketchy, with guys declaring for the draft, opting out of the game, and portal guys, like your roster really gets stripped down because you don't get any of the mid-year guys until January. So you're trying to run 3 units and it gets real dicey when you all of a sudden you've got, 15 guys, 20 guys out of the game. If you've got, a handful of guys playing in the, opting out of the game because of the draft, and then you've got 10 guys in the portal, like, and again, if you're a portal guy, like there's no reason to go through spring practice at your school because all you're going to do is risk injury. And there's already going to be some raw feelings if you announce that you're leaving. So, once you're out, you're kind of out. But yeah, I think the portal lasts, it goes through after the game and then it opens up again after spring ball. ZZM, appreciate you, my man. Thanks for the 5. Won't Missouri be one of the worst defenses we've played besides Western Kentucky and Michigan State? Yeah, probably. I mean, again, like, we've played, Penn State and Michigan, Notre Dame, teams that have real defenses. And, I'm not worried about their defense, but, they played an SEC schedule and, they did a pretty decent job. And they lost to Georgia by, I think, like 7 or 8. It was a pretty tight game. And that was really like the one team that we thought could actually beat Georgia before they got to the SEC championship. And like I said, I worry. I don't worry about motivations because I think if you got some young guys that are hungry, they're going to be motivated to play for Ohio State. But Missouri's going to be really motivated because the last time we played these guys was the Casamore game and we smacked them pretty good. The Corby Jones hit. So I think that these guys are going to try to make a statement versus one of the true S tier blue bloods that Ohio State is. What are your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Look, betting bowl games for years and years and years has always been about finding which teams are motivated versus which teams are kind of going through the motions. And you're right, for Missouri, this is a statement game for them. This is about where they stand in the college football hierarchy. And for Ohio State, look, we're hoping that it's a game that some of the young guys want to show out and do their thing. But from a motivation factor, I mean, you got to love Missouri's edge in a game like this. So to me, that equals out the talent gap, and I think that's why you're going to expect a really close game, kind of like we saw with Utah in the Rose Bowl a few years ago. Utah shouldn't be able to play with Ohio State, but not only were they playing with us, they were beating us, and it took just an absolutely Herculean effort by C.J. Stroud and Jackson to pull out the victory. So I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch, and I can't wait to see it. And like I said, at Jerry World, great place to see a game, so it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I actually went to the national championship game with one Nevada Buck back in the day. I got our Buckeye Scoop webpage up. We've got a transfer portal tracker. I just checked to see if anyone else has joined in the last hour. I didn't see any new names. Nevada, does any of these guys, I mean, no real surprises. I mean, I guess if I was quasi surprised, Julian Fleming, just because if he did come back for a 5th year, he would be the number one guy. Obviously, with Emeka and with Marvin moving on. I hate losing Kai Stokes. I love that kid. I thought he had huge upside. But again, it's hard when you're behind Malik Hartford, and once some of these guys get passed by younger guys, it's hard to get excited about being at Ohio State when you want to go play football. But I don't think there's many real losses. Amari Abor was a 5-star guy, but he was hurt. He played a few snaps. He did not look great. So I don't think he'll be a big loss. Parker Lewis never played here. Evan Pryor is a guy that after that spring game, they had to, move heaven and earth to try to get him some NIL money to keep him here because he looked fantastic in the spring game 2 years ago, and then obviously tore his ACL in camp. But we lose a couple corners, Ryan Turner, Jair Brown. It stinks. Cam Martinez is a guy that got benched. I don't even think he traveled the last game. Victor Cutler, he came here last year, didn't play at all. McCord's obviously the big one, starting quarterback. Jacob James had a weird career here. Luke Whippler at the combine last year said that he'd be the starting center, and then he never really got a sniff. And he was actually behind Victor Cutler, which was surprising. Reed Carrico is a great kid from Ironton. Never really got a shot after 3 years. Any of those guys surprise you? Any reaction to it? Is this just modern college football?
Well, it is modern college football. From a who could have played and helped us down the path, obviously, Julian Fleming goes without saying, but Kai Stokes. I actually like Jair Brown a lot. I thought Jair Brown, he was the guy that was kind of coming on, and then Kyle McCord. So, look, it's just the way that it is. I'm, between portals guys and early entrants to the NFL, you're going to have a lot of attrition, and you just hope that you fill those gaps back. And I know Ohio State's aggressively looking at guys to try to fill the holes left in the roster. I heard from one of my sources today that they were surprised by a couple of these, which, Julian Fleming, I guess, would be the only one that would kind of fall into the category of surprise. I had heard that he'd asked if he was going to be wide receiver 1 next year. And, I don't think Julian Fleming's a wide receiver 1, so I don't think they'd be in a position to make a commitment like that to him, especially with the young guys behind him. I hope they can keep some guys like Noah Rogers around because, I think those guys are going to be really good, going forward. But, no big surprises. Just disappointed for all the kids that are leaving, but onward and upward.
Yeah, and Mayan Williams is going to the draft too. Again, I don't know why. I mean, after the year that he had where he was hurt and he didn't look that quick, if I was him, I'd come back for a fifth year somewhere and try to be the bell cow and get in shape and put out some good film. I didn't think his film was great. There's no chance he's going to get drafted. But some guys, again, there's some guys that are just ready to get out of college. They want to go declare and whatever. So we'll watch a little bit more Cam Ward, see if we get any more super chats. If you guys have any other questions, go ahead and shoot them in as we kind of tick down here. But yeah, this is like the creation stuff. Like I was watching his film earlier, and in the pocket, when the pocket breaks down here, you see the guard gets beat, tackles a little bit of edge here, and the way he can just find his way through the traffic, and then just create again. This is like stealing. This is against Wisconsin. This is Luke Fickell's defense. So this is a well coached defense, a good scheme, and this is the kind of stuff. It's 2nd and 13 here, and when you get a guy that can do this, it changes everything. Because again, that's a backbreaker. You get into field goal range. It's a tight game. It's 24-22. And that's a back-breaking first down. And these are the things that we frankly just never did, and it drove me crazy. It just I don't know. I'm really excited about this kid. I think he's got major ability. I'm gonna scoot back over here because I got a couple super chats. I apologize. I missed this. Thanks for the 10, my man. I appreciate you. When will the NCAA smack Michigan? Directly after they lose to Bama or later in the year? I think it's going to be later in the year. Nevada, do you have an update on that? And I apologize for missing that. Thanks for the deuce again, the 12. So I owe you one. Apologize for that. Do you think it'll be like after they do their? I mean, they're going to have a pretty significant investigation of everything that went on. Correct?
Yeah, exactly. It's an ongoing investigation. They're doing ongoing kind of like data dumps and shares with the Big Ten right now, and then you just got to understand the process. The process is they submit like a finding to Michigan. Michigan then has like 90 days to respond to their finding, and then goes. So I would expect the activity on this to really kind of pick up, probably next summer. That's probably the realistic timetable for when things are rubber going to hit the road. And I've said this before, but the NCAA is looking to try to stay relevant, and one way that they can stay relevant is by being the policeman when stuff like this goes on. And that's why they hit Jeremy Pruitt with a 6-year show cause. That was the longest show cause in the history of college football. So when people are like, "Oh, the NCAA doesn't do anything," I'm like, they just handed down the stiffest penalty to a coach that they've ever done in the history of college football. So if I'm Harbaugh, he's the next one to be made an example out of. And this is literally the only reason for being for the NCAA right now is to enforce the rules. So they're going to try to take enforcement to the. So it's a bad time to be Michigan and to be made an example out of, but just sucks for them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And again, I keep the super chats coming. If you guys have anything else, I'm gonna watch a couple more camps in Nevada. Like I know you and I will cry tears of joy when this happens. When he runs into the shoe and actually scores a rushing touchdown. It'll be one of those things where I'll just be excited that we finally we broke the streak, because it's been how long? 2 years since we've had a rushing touchdown.
No, it's been 3 years. For 3 years, so I guess it's been 4 years since we've had a rushing touchdown from quarterback one.
I mean, that's insane.
When you consider that Cam Ward had 8 on his own last year, yeah, it's crazy to think that we haven't had.
Just takes off and scampers in, and I just think that it's something where, when you're good at it and you can crank it up, and it's just another thing for the defense to worry about is when a guy can convert, and those second and mediums that are 2nd and 14 and he can take off and convert it to first down, like those are just absolute backbreakers. Well, wild day on Buckeyes here. Wild day. We broke the McCord thing late Sunday night. Of course, it filters onto every other message board after we break it. But it was something where the quarterback thing is far from settled. I think Devin Brown hopefully is around to start this game. I think they're coming with an NIL deal the next either tonight or tomorrow. So buckle up, folks. We got another super chat in here. Thank you for the 5, Matt Crawford. Is the NCAA likely levying punishment to just Harbaugh or to the UM program as well? I'll let you take that, Nevada, because you're kind of the expert on it. I'd imagine both, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's both. It's going to be a show cause for Harbaugh. It's going to be an LO, lack of institutional control finding against Michigan, which is going to be constituted by vacating wins, multiple season postseason ban, Probably scholarship reductions, which is not as meaningful in the NIL era, but that's probably what you should expect to happen for Michigan, it's going to be bad for them, and I think that's going to be something that's going to chase Harbaugh to the NFL. It's going to be interesting to see what happens because he'll try to sign with the NFL before they issue their ruling, and then it'll be interesting to see what happens once they issue it. How the NFL will handle that? Will they suspend him? What will they do? Because this one's going to be bad, and I think everybody knows it's going to be bad, and that's why nobody expects him to be back in Michigan next year because it's just not going to be happening.
Yeah, I totally agree. Again,
Operational leaders, but they all have faults. Cam Ward's got 30 fumbles in 3 years or whatever it is, and there's everybody's got warts out there, and it's just going to be it's going to be up to Ryan Day to figure out how he can polish this stuff out of these kids, and that's why he gets paid the big money, but. That's the opportunity. We need better, more dynamic quarterback play next year to get our offense from 33 and 38 in scoring and total defense or offense respectively, back up in the top 10. There's no reason we should be in the top 10, and that's got to be the goal.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that having a creative quarterback that can move like this guy, you inject Ennis Tate, JJ Smith into the mix, then you get Jelani Thurman. I mean, it's going to be a younger crew, but they've got the same amount of ability. I mean, like Carnell and Brandon, they don't take a backseat to anybody. I think I'm so excited to watch Brandon Ennis playing this bowl game that I can't even speak. I think he's going to have, he's going to be a guy that you saw what he could do against Purdue. He took that one ball and he was going to the crib. I mean, he was not messing around. He was trying to get in the end zone, and that's kind of his mentality. He's like the tone setter in the room now. He's going to be one of the dudes, and he doesn't play. He is about his action, and he is about he wants to take a dude's head off. So. I'm excited to see some of these young guys. It'll be interesting to see what the rest of the crew looks like. The O-line should be pretty intact, I'd imagine, just because I don't think anyone's going to leave. I think Donnie's the most on the fence, but I think there's a decent chance he stays if we get him a good NIL package. That's kind of, as much as people like to hate on NIL, like one of the great things about NIL is that if a kid is on the fence and you can throw him a little bit of change, all of a sudden he can stay and he has a little bit of security. He can take out an insurance policy for $5 million, and in case he has a debilitating injury. He can also just work to improve his craft. You give a kid $100,000 and he's in college, like he can eat better and live better and relax and have a little bit less stress with mom and dad, as opposed to having to go chase a check. And like Donnie didn't have a great year. I mean, Donnie made first team All Big Ten, I think, just off of his name alone, but like I watched his film and he was okay. And like, I love Donnie. He wears my number. He's 74. So I root harder for Donnie than anybody on the team. But with his amount of ability and the amount of brute force and strength he has, I expect a lot more out of him, and I think he's got to get his hands going. If he gets his hands fixed, he could be a dominator, but he was kind of all over the place. He gave up the ending sack against Michigan where he got tripped. I'll give it to him, but I mean, he still has to figure out a way to get his feet from getting tangled up and get that block. When you really need it is when you really need it. So final thoughts of that. I will wrap this thing up. Again, it's a great show. Appreciate you guys all. What are your final thoughts?
Tomorrow night, Nevada Buck reveal show. That's going to be huge. So getting excited about that already. Set the watches, set to Greenwich Mean Time. Get yourself ready to go there. Set your atomic clock or whatever it is. Nevada Buck reveal show Tuesday night. Can't wait.
I love it. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Well, appreciate you guys as always. Thank you so much for all you guys do for this channel. If you enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and also click that little alert bell. Again, you guys are humongous. We appreciate kicking it with you guys. Thank you for the super chats. Those are also awesome. You guys have the best questions. It always is a blast to answer them. And of course, at the bell, you guys are my favorite when you guys bring stuff right at the bell. Coconut Dreams. I can't wait to see the blue tears falling. I agree. The Howard Cosell from the grave call is going to be epic and played forever. Down goes Clown Ball. Down goes Michigan. Scum BT, #bet. Thanks for the 10. I appreciate you, Coconut Dreams. I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Shout out where you guys are watching from. I know my Portsmouth boys were in the house last night. My Southern Ohio boys. We need to go to the river. I love the river down there. So shout out Southern Ohio, Jackson, Chesapeake, South Point. Those are my people down there, so appreciate you guys all. You guys are all you guys are both Buckeyes and Thundering Herd people, so appreciate you guys. Shout out to my Northeast Ohio people. Shout out to Northeast Ohio. We kind of killed it in the OSHA playoffs, 5 out of 7 state championships. Congrats to all the state champions. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, BuckeyesScoop.com, we had our busiest traffic day of all time. And we appreciate you guys that are members of BuckeyesScoop.com. If you guys are not members of BuckeyesScoop.com, you guys need to join it because our site is absolutely crushing it right now. So I just appreciate you guys. So thank you guys for all you guys do. We are going to be bringing the heat tomorrow all day. As the news is breaking, we will be breaking it on BuckeyesScoop.com. So we appreciate you guys. I hope you guys join it. That being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. And thank you, Scoop family. I'm going to talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.